G'day all, Mark from Southern Cross Amateur Astro here with yet another video user guide for Astrophotographer tool. Today we're just going to be doing a quick look at interacting with the interface. There are a number of little things on the interface that increase the functionality or do different things that you might not expect. So we're just going to quickly run through all of them. So let's get straight into it and have a look. Now I'll try and keep this video pretty short. There's only a few things to go over. There's just some interesting things about the interface of APT I want to point out to you. Now the first thing you might notice that's different to normal is my image tab is sitting up over here. And that's because three of your tabs, your camera tab, gear tab and the imaging tab, have the ability to become floating windows. To do that, simply right click on the tab and it opens up as a floating window which you can move around, resize, place wherever you want. Same with the gear tab, you can move it around, do whatever you want with it, and it'll let you have them up so you can see them anytime you like. To close them again, it's simply a case of pressing the X or right clicking again on the tab and they will disappear. But that's handy if you want one particular feature to be available all the time. So I like having my image tab out so I can review images pretty quickly, but whatever you like you can do that, and you can just move it around, place it where you want. So that's a handy feature you've got there. Now the next little feature I want to talk about is quite handy as well. It adds extra functionality to certain buttons. So you'll see some buttons that have got a little cross on them up the top up here, like your start button here on your gear tab. There's a number on there that have it. And what that means is if you hold down shift while you click on the button, it can perform a different function to what it normally do. Like just clicking on start normally will start a plan if you've got it in there. If you hold down shift and start, it brings you up extra start options. You can loop plans or schedule a start or anything else. So that's what it can do there. Like on the gear tab, the go to, you hold down shift, it opens the advanced go-to options, so you can do settings in there, and etc. Park, holding down shift will ask you, do you want this to be your park location? So that's what they do. Any button, there's numerous runs throughout the system depending on what you're doing at the time that can do that. I'll explain what each of them can do at the particular time I'm doing that section later on, but that's just something to watch out for, those little buttons with crosses on them. There are a couple of buttons that also have a control click function, and I'll cover them in the appropriate video later. So that's the first two simple little things we have. Now the next thing we have is on some places in your gear tab, you'll see this little ring here, same here in your camera tab, and that's called Ringy thingy, and it's primarily designed for people using touchpads or touch screens to control their APT. And basically this one, wherever you've got numbers, you can use Ringy thingy to change the number. So what you need to do is press and hold on it, whether it's your finger or your mouse or whatever, and then you can move it to change the number. Now depending on how close you are to Ringy thingy depends how sensitive it is. The further out you are, the slower it changes, but the closer in you are, as you can see, it changes much quicker. So that's just how that works there. But that's not the smart thing about it. These sort of things have been around before. What makes it smart is, well, the first thing that does, depending on what camera you've got connected, if you've got a DSLR, they only have set, except when you get into bulb mode, they only have set exposure times. So below 30 seconds they have set exposure time. Ringy thingy will remember those times and only come up with times that your DSLR can support. So that's something smart there. It works the same with ISO on a DSLR. It will only go to ISOs that you support. It won't change numbers in between them or anything else. If you've got your camera set to do your ISO in full stops, it'll go 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, etc. If you've got half stops, it'll do what those are, or third stops, it'll do what those are. It won't try and enter in numbers that your equipment cannot support. So that's one very smart thing about it. Now the other thing you have with it is you can make it quite sensitive. Now if I enter a decimal place in here, what it does is if your mouse is on the right hand side of the decimal place, it will change by the smallest amount it can, in this case 0.1. So if I use that on there, you'll see the figure is changing by 0.1. If you have more decimal places, it will change by even smaller increments. So I'll take this down to 0.156. There you go. So I've got 3 decimal places. So that's going to change by 1/1000th of the figure. So in this case, seconds. So that gives you extremely fine control if you need small changes like that. While on the other side, it will still only change by, oops, I better click on it first. It still only changes by 1 at a time. So that's what makes it really smart. Like I said, very handy for people using touchpads or using a touch screen to control it. The next one we have is very similar and can be used in some of the same places. Basically, it can be used in pretty much all of them. Is keys thingy. Simply double tapping or double clicking in a text box brings up keys thingy, and depending on what text box you've done it on, it will depend on what's available on here. So in here, if you're in a box that can use calculations, you'll have the calculations available to you. If you're in one that requires a time, you'll have the ability to add a time using the colon here. You can clear the box for now and then enter a figure, and it gets entered straight into the box, which is quite handy. As I said, this is also designed for those using a keypad. Another option you have is if you're in a box like the object box here, it has a list of the prefixes for objects. So if you want to add an object, you can do it this way by its prefix and number. So I'm going to enter an SH2 dash and I'll go 308. In case you don't know what 308 is, that's the Dolphin Head Nebula, and as you can see, it's entered it in here for me. And you can do that in any box that takes that sort of setting. And that's about it for that. It's quite handy, and like I said, like if I do it on the time here, you can do clear that, and I can go 1-5, and it'll say 1/5 of a second. And that's how it works. Very handy if you're using something like a touch screen. So I'll close that one for now. One more thing I just want to show you quickly. If I start this plan here, I'm on the simulator, so take some fake photos. I've only got 3 seconds exposures. And you look in the top left hand corner up here, you'll see this little white box pop up. And what that does is every second image it pops up, and then on the images in between it disappears. So that's what it's doing, and it's just to let you know your images are being updated, your camera's taking images, etc, etc, etc. Comes in handy if you're doing long exposures. You might want to, you might be away from the computer. It's something that's not too hard to see from a bit of a distance, so you know your camera's doing what it should do. But that's what it does there. That's just a little box just to indicate what image you're up to, whether you're doing an odd one or an even one. And I think that's about it for this. I've covered that box, ringy thingy, floating tabs, and keys thingy, and the special start or special buttons with crosses on them. So I hope you found this useful. I'm going to end it here. Wish you all clear skies, and I will chat to you in another video. Take care all.